Since this session is being recorded and we want to respect your privacy, please do not state your name and school at any time. So this is Charisma de los Reyes, and I'm going to read her autobiography. Charisma de los Reyes is a senior protective services worker for Child Welfare Services and an adjunct professor at the University of Southern California School of Social Work, teaching in the school's Global Immersion program. She has been a community organizer and activist for more than 20 years, engaging in social justice and advocacy work around women and girls' issues, both locally and internationally. De los Reyes informs and trains wide audiences on the dangers of commercial sexual exploitation and consults to shape county-wide policies and procedures across systems and disciplines.
Thank you for that introduction. So thank you all for being here. I'm excited that this is, I'm excited to be here. I didn't even realize about the WorldLink conference, and then I was even more excited to find out that it is driven by youth. And so I've been talking a lot today, like at lunch with Yoko and folks who've been coming up to me talking about what they would like to do from here on out around the issue of trafficking, specifically the commercial sexual exploitation of children. I tell them the change in this paradigm shift that I've been working on for so long to help people understand the victimization of CSEC and that it is not a choice by a child that is being made to be involved in the commercial sex trade, that where that change is going to come is actually from our youth. Because I don't have to convince you that this is an issue, I don't have to tell you, no, this is a form of trafficking. You will understand it because you are growing up in it. But what we need to work on is to blur that false dichotomy of trafficking is a foreign issue versus a domestic, because what's happened then is, or what is happening now is that we are not identifying domestic sex trafficked people, whether they are adults or children, and even more so what is needed, not only that we are not identifying, but there's no proper services, right? So, I am a social worker at the Polinsky Children's Center. How many of you guys are familiar with that? Okay, just a few of you. So let me just give you a brief overview of that. Polinsky Children's Center is the emergency shelter facility where children are taken if they are removed from their home because it was unsafe for them to remain in their home. And so we are a temporary shelter, which usually means 30 days or less. And I work with children from 0 to 18. So we have a baby cottage, et cetera. And so currently my position as the human trafficking CSEC liaison is to inform policy, county policy, and develop protocols, as well as to work directly with victims in the child welfare system or in the foster care system. So today my talk is very timely in that, could we imagine, we need to create a world where girls are not for sale. But how do we do that when girls like yourselves are advertised by your body parts? They don't care about how smart you are, what your culture is, what you think about the world. They don't care. They just want to know what your cup size is, what if you wear pink lingerie, or what have you. So what do we need to know about CSEC to prevent it? Well, first we need to be able to define it. So CSEC is a form of human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking, where it involves a child who is under the age of 18, where they are forced to do sexual acts or any type of sexual activity in exchange for something of value. I stress value because it's not just about money. Value could also mean shelter, food, clothing, access to medical care, pay some kind of household bill, some sort of need that needs to be filled. And it doesn't even have to be given. It can even just be promised. And it doesn't even have to be given or promised to the person doing the sex act, the child doing the sex act, but it can also be someone in their family, grandmother, brother, sister, etc. In CSEC, children are treated as commercial sex objects to be sold and used for sex. Because it's specifically this word, right? The objectification of. You are not treated as a person, you are treated as a thing to meet a sexual need. So today we will dispel the myth that those who purchase sex are somehow attracted to that person that they are buying from. Myth. They don't care. The purchaser of sex really doesn't care much about what you look like. They just want to make sure that you can meet their sexual need, right? And it's also not about pedophilia, where it's about an attraction to prepubescent. It's purchasers of sex are what we call situational abusers. Because it is available and there's very low risk, very little risk in buying a person for sex, I'm gonna do it. And they will specifically look for girls who are younger. Can you imagine why? Even though they say they're 18, okay? But who look younger. Can you imagine why? Yes?
Because they won't say anything, they're too afraid.
Might not say anything, too afraid. What I found from purchasers of sex, having to work with them and interview them, etc., is that they believe the younger, the cleaner. Do you know what I mean by that? What? What does that mean? Virgins, maybe not as many STDs or STIs. CSEC is certainly a form of violence against children, and in my work, in my field of child maltreatment, this has been one of the most challenging in terms of we have child abuse and neglect laws for a reason. We do not make children responsible for their own safety. That's why we have parents, right? And caregivers. And sadly, even a foster care system, because when our families can't do it, then the state has to step in. So what I stress here is the violence. Oftentimes, society gets caught up in the sensationalizing of trafficking, because it's hot, right? We got Taken 3 out right now, right? 3. So we're so used to seeing the chains and the bondage and being stuck in a cargo ship or in a basement. But what does it mean for those here in the United States? We often do not take into account the violence and manipulation that is endured by the youth who are entrapped and enslaved in this modern day slavery. And I'll tell you guys a little bit about the violence and what that looks like. So what does the commercial sexual exploitation include? It's not just about street walking and prostitution, you guys. There's not street walking as much anymore because of the wonderful internet. The internet has changed the game in terms of how modern day slavery is being facilitated. As easily as you can order a Domino's pizza with every kind of topping, pan, whatever kind of dough you want, and have it delivered to you in 30 minutes, you can also do that with a girl. And I'll show you backpage.com. So the internet allows people to also be anonymous. How many of us have different, you don't have to raise your hand. How many of us have different handles, right? Different names that we go by on the internet. So you have your official Facebook page, and then you have your secret Facebook page, right? Or the one that your mom and dad don't have access to. Yeah. So the internet, the anonymity of, and we'll talk about the imbalance as well in terms of law, of those who buy sex and those who sell sex. So we also have video chatting. What I want to cover, though, what is really special about San Diego is we have gang-based prostitution. You guys familiar with the Bloods and the Crips in San Diego? So last month in December, the amazing group of law enforcement folks that I get to work with, the privilege of working with, had an operation. and it was called Operation Broken Souls. And for 2 years, we worked on tracking a particular gang that formed. Their color was purple. I grew up in Southeast San Diego, so I know what the Bloods are, the Pyrus, right? I went to Morse High School, I know exactly what it is, right? So I'm thinking, what is this new color purple? Well, we start to find out, oh my gosh, this is a hybrid gang. What they call a hybrid gang. The Bloods and the Crips, the Reds and the Blues, came together to make what? And they came together just to do prostitution because it is so lucrative. Two gangs that would normally kill each other rather than come together on anything, they were like, nah, there's too much money to be made here. Guess how much money can be made in the underground sex economy right here in good old San Diego? $96.6 million a year. And people still think it doesn't happen here. And trust, it doesn't happen because of the border. San Diego is a part of a 6-city circuit, which means pimps, traffickers, exploiters will take their girls into different cities depending on what is happening in those cities. So they can start in San Diego. They'll do some quick work in Orange County as they're passing through to go to LA, hit up San Francisco, come down to Phoenix or Tucson, and then head out to Las Vegas. And what do you think those cities have in common? Tourist cities. Huge tourist cities, right? Conventions. Can you guys think of what happens in the month of July in San Diego? What's all happening in July? The con. What else? Pride. Horse races. Right? There's a lot of things happening in San Diego every week in the month of July alone. I wonder if prostitution-related offenses go up during that time. Yes? That's a chance that they take, and I'll show you Backpage.com. The sexual advertisements, I'll show you that, and because that way you guys can see how easy it is to order someone for sex. So there were, real quickly, in terms of the gang stuff, there were 23 people indicted, 22 girls and women recovered. But I tell them, we're missing a lot of girls, and let me tell you why. The way they worked, the way they recruited their girls is that they implanted their most experienced senior girls in their stable, which is what is called the family unit in the life of prostitution. They would put their most senior experienced girls onto high school campuses, and those girls would then recruit. Right here, San Diego. And so, like moths to a flame, these girls were dressed exactly how any other girl would want to look like. So I'm talking about the newest Jordans. I'm talking about the newest tech. Nothing was wrong with my iPhone 5S, but I had to have the 6, right? She is carrying a Gucci, not a Fucci. I'm not playing. She bought that cold hard cash, right? And the young girl's like, what? How you look so fly? Where can I get, those kicks ain't even out yet, right? I gotta wait 10 days to get those shoes in line. And she's like, oh, let me tell you, people always ask me, how does this happen? And the conversation between me and you begins. I tell you, oh, baby girl, you know what? You just gotta go on a date. You ain't gotta have sex with nobody. I'll do it. I'll go with you your first time. And you turn that first trick, which is the date with the purchaser of sex. You think you're just going to go on a date and there's not going to be any sex, right? Because what do we call that? Escorts, right? Escorts for companionship. But he's already paid the money to have sex with you. So now you're being raped. You're trapped. Uh-oh. Come on. Oh, now more questions? All right. So what we know now, what's happening in San Diego is that girls between the ages of 12 and 14 are being recruited into the commercial sex industry, even younger for boys between 11 to 13. What grades are those kids in? Middle school, right? 11 and 13. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 11 is like Like sixth grade, fifth grade even, huh? About to be sixth grade? And so on any given night, there are 2,500 approximately, 2,500 homeless youth on our streets. And homeless youth includes runaways and throwaways. Do you guys know what throwaways are? What are throwaways? Parents kicked them out. Exactly. They didn't run away from home. They have been kicked out of the home. Who do you think is most vulnerable, that most likely to happen to throwaway kids? Are LGBTQ, right? They get kicked out of their houses a lot because their families don't want to accept whatever experiences they're having, right? So, 1 out of 5 kids, and if we take the 2,500 kids that are on our streets on any given night, will be approached within 48 hours by a trafficker or recruiter. Within the first 48 hours that any of you, 1 in every 5 of you, are on the street. What do you think is happening after those first 24 hours? Think about it. If you were that kid on the street, that youth on the street, what do you think might be happening for you after the first 24 hours you've run away or been thrown out of your home? Hungry, right? It's so cold in San Diego right now at night, it might as well snow, right? We're not used to this kind of cold weather, right? You're scared, you're isolated, you're like, oh my God, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be. And so that smooth talking dude or girl comes up to you and you're desperate. You don't want to be on a park bench in Balboa Park no more. It's kind of scary, right? You don't even have a blanket. And they approach you and they're telling you, hey, you can come chill at my pad. You could just sleep on the couch, right? Don't worry about it. Ain't nothing gonna happen. Do I look like a child molester? Right? Yes. Sorry? Those that are recruiting? More than likely, yes. Yes. Exactly. And we will talk about recruitment tactics, yes. What that looks like, because trust me, they ain't telling you, I'm gonna turn you out into prostitution, right? They're not telling you that. And it's a very real question because this is exactly how it happens. So, how are they lured in? What this young lady was asking about is seduction. This is the number one. Therefore, the heart. Pimp, trafficker, exploiter acts like they are interested in you and they want to have a romantic relationship with you. That it is you and him against the world. Your parents are whack. They don't understand you. Blah, 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 blah. And I am your ride or die. We're going to do this together. We're going to have our own pad. We're going to have our own family, right? And this pimp, trafficker, exploiter, recruiter will do and say anything they need to say to you to gain trust, absolute trust. And trust, they are also having sex with you, so that's even more confusing for you, right? You have the emotional and the physical aspect of it. And you're 14 years of age. And homeboy's probably like 25. So you think, I got me a man, right? He got a job, he got a car, right? I ain't messing with no little high school boy. I got me a man, right? But then maybe after 2 months of wooing, of making you believe that I love you and I will do anything for you, and right, baby girl, you would do anything for me too, right? Anything. Well, guess what? Shoot, the car note needs to be paid this month, and I'm short $300. And she's like, I love you. I'll do anything for you. What do I need to do, right? And she's 14. She can't exactly work. There's no worker's permit, right? And he says, hey, I got an idea. I heard sometimes people like post online, you just go on a date. And she's like, okay, but do I got to have sex? It's like, no. I'll be there. I'll take you there and I'll pick you up, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's turning out. He has now worked on turning her out. He tells her it's only going to be one time. But once you cross that line, he's going to tell her what? You can't do it again? You already did it, right? What's the big deal? Then we also have befriending. This is another one. This usually happens among girl peers, girlfriends. You have the older senior female, right? Say she's 17, who is now attracted the 14-year-old, the 13-year-old on campus, and they become BFFs fast. Fast. And she thinks, oh my gosh, you know, I got a new homegirl. We're down for each other. We're going to do this, that, and the other. And then again, the conversation begins. But this girl, she knew exactly what she was befriending you for. It was not because she really wanted your friendship. It was because she has to satisfy her pimp and bring you in because now you can earn more money, right? Okay, thank you. So we talked about who is most at risk: homeless youth, LGBTQ, children who have past trauma in their life. Because again, when you are exposed to trauma early on in your life, sometimes other things don't seem that bad. And especially if you've been exposed to domestic violence early on in your life, you believe that this is how people resolve conflict, by hitting each other, by almost killing each other. Where are youth recruited? The big ones here in San Diego: trolley stops and bus stations. And anywhere really where any youth hang out. But big one, social media outlets. Facebook, Snapchat, all of it. People will actively recruit you. It's not going to do it for me. All right, we'll keep going. Maybe I can do it later. So you have to be really careful, because what you think, who you think you are interacting with online could certainly be a predator, right? Have you guys seen the To Catch a Predator? That series on MSNBC? So where there's a decoy, it's a law enforcement officer. She pretends to be 14 years old. She's talking to all kinds of dudes online, and they know she's 14. And they somehow, okay, are you going to come over? And he's basically wanting to come over for sex. And let me tell you, these dudes that are online, they will cross county and state lines to get to her. There's a favorite story I have from To Catch a Predator. So homeboy gets there, he has alcohol and he has condoms in his white grocery bag. And she's like upstairs and she's saying, okay, I'll be down there, right? Just stay there, I'll be down. He's so excited, he gets completely buck naked as he waits for her, right? So he's standing there and the MSNBC dude comes out, hi, my name is, and he's like, right? And he's like, what are you doing here? And then he says, oh, I came to talk to, let's call her Lisa. Came to talk to Lisa. Okay. Why you need to be naked to talk to Lisa? And what you got in your little bag? Oh, you need alcohol and condoms to talk to Lisa? And let me tell you guys, those that cross state lines to see Miss Little Lisa 14-year-old, rabbis, teachers, counselors, coaches, priests, reverends, judges. That's all who came. So when we think about what we need to change the way we think, that those kind of girls want to be out there hoeing because they like the stuff they're getting. Maybe they're even sex addicted or drug addicted. Can I flip that on its head a little bit and ask you, who should we really be mad at or concerned at? Should our focus really be on the girls who are doing it? How about who is buying these girls? The quota, every night a girl is supposed to rack, which means she is supposed to bring in $1,000 every night. The girls I work with tell me straight up, there is no such thing as a slow night in San Diego. They could make a rack on any given night. They tell me about they have to have sex with 15 to 30 men a night to make $1,000. And that happens right here in San Diego, right? Because I told you $96.6 million made right here, San Diego. And so the lasting impact, when we talk about the manipulation and the violence, the spiritual part, how does God allow somebody else to buy somebody else for sex? How? How does he allow that? If there is a God, How does he allow someone who was supposed to love me almost beat me within the inch of my life because I only brought home $900? The physical. Girls I work with, broken bones, broken teeth, trauma brain injuries from being beaten by their pimps or those that buy them for sex. One of my most painful cases is a 16-year-old girl. When we talk about the physical violence and the things that girls have to deal with long after they are in the life, so I'm going to talk to you guys straight. Girls are on their period, average 2 to 5 days, right? Girls are made to make $1,000 a day. If she is on her period for 5 days, how much money is that? And that's potentially $5,000 that is not being made. The pimp ain't gonna have that. He ain't gonna have that. You messing with his money, right? So what does he tell her to do? Girl, you gotta keep working. She's like, what? Stuff. He tells her to stuff. So for 48 hours, she stuffs so that she's not bleeding, to stop the bleeding. Then she starts to hemorrhage. She's in excruciating pain. There happened to be a raid that day. If it wasn't for FBI doing that raid, I don't think that child would have died in that hotel room because that's where she was forced to work. She was doing in-calls where the pimp rents a hotel room, and those who want to buy her then come to her at that hotel room. And let me tell you, Mission Valley Hotel Circle is very popular. All those hotels, they all do it. Motels, they all do it. It's turned in a blind eye, right? It's turned the other way. So she was brought to Children's Hospital. Immediately, she had to go into surgery, emergency surgery. There was no discussion about what's going to happen. Do you want to have kids later? Because guess what happened? They had to take out all of her reproductive organs because there was so much damage. I tell you these stories because people often think that these girls choose this life. Who would choose that life? I don't care how many times she goes back. Who would choose that life? It is a choice of no choices. So now we have a 16-year-old who knows she will never have children, her own biological children, because of what somebody else has done to her. But we don't hear about those stories, right? We always hear about them hoes, them sluts, them whores out on the streets. And if they weren't out on the streets, then nobody would be buying them. Again, simple supply and demand. If there was no demand, there would be no supply. We are looking at this backwards. Victim and survivor needs. They need a lot of intensive assistance. Victims will suffer 5 times, will more likely have PTSD 5 times more than combat veterans because of the trauma they have experienced when forced into prostitution or into the commercial sex industry. 5 times. So when they're having flashbacks, when there's depression, when there's panic, it's really difficult, the recovery process. They're also dealing with issues of substance abuse, which is also co-occurring. And it's not because they're drug addicted. Why do you think substance abuse might increase during this time? Yes?
Because they put drugs onto people in order to make them, to force them in order to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would get like dizzy or I don't know, so they would it would be easy to control them.
So at first, you're right, we did think that, but when we started working with victims, we found out it was a way to cope. Because if you're having to sleep or to service 15 to 30 men a night, you don't want to be in this body. So dissociation happens where they literally leave their body so that they can get through the act, right, and make that money. But it increases because they need to deal with it. They want to numb out. And let me tell you something about pimps. The girl is their product, right? They want a solid product. Who wants to buy a product that's strung out, that doesn't actively participate in the sex act? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to buy that, right? And then he's also losing money because he got to support her drug habit. He'll kick her to the curb and then just get a new one. Because now she's taking money from me. I can't have that. I'm all about the, right? I'm all about the profit. So I know we will continue to talk, but I want to share this video with you. This is called America's Daughters. Oh, let me make sure I'm all. And this, I will just let it speak for itself.
She was 4 years old the first time a man looked at her the way a man looks at his wife on their wedding day. Little girls are supposed to dream about being models and doctors and veterinarians. Instead, she fought sleep eyes wide with terror of another night greeted by her stepfather's shadow. He was a real monster in her bedroom, and Mom, she was too fragile, too selfish to accept the truth that her little girl's innocence had been stolen one night when her boyfriend decided she wasn't good enough anymore. And since the little girl never had a real father, she accepted his advances because he always promised her his touches were acceptable, because he loved her. When you don't know yourself and you don't love yourself, you will fall for anything that sounds like love and feels like love. She was a walking corpse, stained with the fingerprints of strangers. And all she wanted was to walk the earth without the heaviness, the weight of all the men who tore a piece of her and took it with them. She never made it to see her 18th birthday. This is for the pain, for the stains that bath water won't wash away, for the scars left on the hearts of the fatherless child. This is for the girls objectified instead of praised like queens. This is for the agony. Growing up without a father, but all you really want is love, and you don't understand love. So one day when some guy stops you in a train station or a street corner and tells you you're beautiful, you are quickly intrigued. You like the fact that someone notices you, and you will do anything to feel like he's everything, and he promises you everything, and the things he convinces you to do, they don't seem that bad if afterwards he shows you how much he loves you. Your morals are abandoned on that sidewalk where you turned your first trick. Your beauty is left in that hotel room where some stranger touched you like his girlfriend and then left the money on the nightstand. And every night, you die again, compromising your worth for what your pimp calls love and security. The hustle, the streetlights, the schemes, it never seems worth it, but you have the liquor to comfort your fears. And as long as your profits meet expectations, you will have what you always wanted your whole life. Love. Love that doesn't feel right, but it's all you think you're worth, so you take it every day. You sleep when the sun comes up, rise when the sun is down. Conceal the torment with makeup and stylish hairdos. Put on your best outfits. Something arousing because you have to make them happy. The men, the tricks, the pimps. This is for the pain. This is for America. In hopes that you will notice that 12-year-old girl who was forced to trade her lunchbox and sneakers for a Chanel purse and pumps. This is for the 16-year-old girl kidnapped by a gang of men on her way to school and held captive in a house right next door to you. This is for the 20-year-old girl who took her last beating today because she couldn't bring herself to let another man hold her down and violate her. We are all slaves for love, degrading ourselves for acceptance of a man that's the closest thing to a father figure we've ever known. We were once just girls with aspirations and a small piece of hope. Now who will notice us? Who will save America's daughters?
So that spoken word poem was written by a domestic survivor. Questions? I know this is really heavy, and I don't do this for shock value. But what I think about is when youth like you all are being recruited or being tempted, enticed, I need to tell you what it is. And if we don't tell you what it is, the homie network will tell you what it is. And how good do you think that information is? Right? So when kids that I work with think that they are just AWOLing, that they are just absent without leave, right? They're just going to go run away and party for the weekend or whatever. But what's really waiting on the other side is things like that, because now they're trapped. And now they also have to deal with the shame and the stigma that comes along with being involved in the life. So it's important that there is peer-to-peer youth leadership amongst all of you to share this type of information, right? Because this 40-year-old social worker can flap my lips all I want. But kids look at me and be like, she old school, what she know she talking about, right? But they hear it from you. There's credibility there. There's compassion there. There's caring there. Most importantly, empowerment, right? A coworker, a good friend of mine used to say, not my kids. Well, let's change the emphasis on some of those words. Not my kids. And that's every kind of kid, every race, from every socioeconomic class, any zip code that they live in. Nobody deserves to be enslaved. It's a basic human right. Nobody, but especially our most vulnerable, our children. So what will you all think about doing in terms of your advocacy, in terms of even your volunteerism? How will you spark conversation? Oh, big one. I want you to drop the P word of prostitute. My challenge to you is to no longer use that word to describe people who are involved in the commercial sex industry, because the word prostitute is loaded, right? There's images that conjure up in your mind, terms, slang terms, curse words. So I want you to call it what it is, which is the commercial, the selling of, sexual, the act, exploitation, the imbalance of power of children. Call it exactly what it is. It's exploitation of a child. Yes? Can you speak up a little? I'm sorry.
Are like porn stars victims, or are they volunteer to do that?
So this is always what comes up in terms of the controversy of choice. When it comes to children in the state of California, you cannot consent to any type of sex or sex act. It's against the law. You cannot consent. When you are 18 or older, the idea of choice that you want to do this is it then becomes a different conversation, which I then bring up feminism, right? If you take a look at, you have a man who is homeless and has a child maybe. Yeah, let's make him have a child. You have a woman who is homeless who also has a child. What do you think the first job or thing that this single dad with a child may do to feed his child? What do you think he may have to do? Steal. Homeless on the street. Steal? What else? Sell drugs. Mm-hmm. How about the female? What do you think she'll do? She'll sell her body. See that? He will steal. He will sell drugs. But no, selling his body doesn't even cross his mind. But hers? Because she knows there will always be a buyer. And she's also been conditioned to believe this is what women do in society. I don't know if I had a chance to talk to you guys about when women or girls are involved in trafficking. Let's say they get recruited first into labor trafficking, right? They will quickly become trafficked for sex. Why? Why? Because of their biology. Because of their biology. They will get trafficked for sex for sure. 4.5 million people around the world are sex trafficked. 98% of those 4.5 million people are women and girls. When we talk about this trafficking being a gender-based violence issue, you better believe it. And I'm not excluding the male gender. I'm not excluding them. But when women are overrepresented at 98%, we got a problem. We have a real problem in 2015, right? Where it's not safe for any of us to walk by ourselves, to wear a short skirt, to possibly drink a little too much. Because what is that? Victim blaming. You shouldn't have been doing that. You shouldn't have been walking by yourself in North Park. You wouldn't have gotten attacked. So I always say, we always teach our girls not to be raped. How about we teach our men not to rape? Is that a novel idea? You teach people not to rape, not don't get raped. Don't rape. But yet, it's still the female's fault. And these are issues of sexism that we have to deal with, not only at the individual level, but at the systems level as well. How are rape victims treated in courts? How are C-sec victims treated? You want to know what happens, the imbalance in law? A female gets arrested for prostitution, right, for solicitation. She goes to jail so many days, that goes on her record forever. A male, first time purchasing of sex, I doubt it, but just the first time he got caught. Let's be real, right? First time he gets caught, pays a $200 fine, goes to a 3-hour class to learn about STDs and why it's wrong to buy people for sex. And he does all that successfully. His record, his conviction, dropped down to a misdemeanor for a public disturbance. You don't even know he was buying sex. For every 9 women that are arrested for prostitution, only 1 purchaser of sex is arrested. What are we doing as a society? Just because we have certain laws in place doesn't mean they're fantastic. That's what amendments are for, right? We need to be critical. We need to understand what were the unintentional consequences. Do these laws even still fit? How do we need to better enforce laws? So that's what I call low deterrence. If nothing's really happening with the Johns, they just gonna keep doing it, right? Yes.
I know that it's like not as common with like men or like young boys being trafficked, but like when they are trafficked, is it like homosexually or is it like for like to please women?
So it depends again on the purchaser. But what studies are showing is that the way boys are trafficked are usually in clubs, in dance clubs, in bars, those types of things. They're usually trafficked there. And what is that app, you guys? Tinder? You guys familiar with Tinder? So Tinder is basically a hookup site. It's, you're supposed to meet people. But it's a hookup site. And if you are looking for a hookup, you literally just go online, and within a 5-mile radius, you can find somebody who want to hook up. Tinder. There's also sugardaddy.com. You guys hear about that? Right? So there are affluent men that are looking for companionship, and they're looking for young ladies like you who are about to enter college and you do not want any school loans. So you become their companion, and they pay for your school loans. They pay for your car note, and it's sugardaddy.com. Yeah. I really want to show you Backpage, but I'm afraid of what may come up, because then now it's being videoed. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, last one.
Like the roles be reversed. Like when you say that the guy, if he gets caught, fine, like he gets the class, shouldn't the woman get the class instead so they don't have the consequences?
Great question. Exactly. What services or rehabilitation or support do they get outside of being arrested? Great question. No. Unless a CBO, a community-based organization, comes to provide services or engage with them and see what they may need. Other than that, no. Nothing's provided by the system. Not sure why. I believe it has a lot to do with how we still view it, how we still view prostitution. that somehow these victims don't deserve. They are undeserving and unworthy of support and services. So thank you guys for your participation today.